Okay, good morning. Shalom Aleichem. We're continuing in Mishna Daf Hashavua. We're learning Siman Kuf Yud Sif Daled. We began reading the Mechaber yesterday. We mentioned that Sif Aleph speaks about when you're in pressing circumstances. You could say an abridged tefillah called Havinenu. We learned about workers, perhaps also could say Havinenu, although Bisman Hazeh, we don't utilize that. Sif Gimel, we learned about an even more abbreviated tefillah, where you say Tzarchi Amcha Merubim. However, that type of tefillah, if you daven it, you need to daven again, and if you don't daven again, you have to mashlim the tefillah. As opposed to the tefillah's Havinenu, you don't have to go back and daven again. Okay, Sif Daled began. We'll read it again. Hayotzil Haderech, one who goes on the road, Yispalo Yiratzmu Fanecha Hashem Elokeinu Makei Avosenu, Shetoilichenu L'Shalom, you should lead us and guide us in peace. V'tzarech la'amra b'lashon rabim, you need to say it in lashon rabim. V'mefshar, if possible, Yamoid Mileilech Kishayamrenu, you should stand up and stop from walking. In other words, if you're walking, stop. If you're riding on an animal, you don't have to get down, although it sounds like you should stop it. You should stop the animal. We'll see in the Mishnah Berura, if you're riding on a wagon, you don't have to get off, but you should stop it, if that's possible. Now, obviously the same thing would be in a car. Ideal would be to pull over. Obviously it's not so practical. Most of the times you're on a highway, it's not necessarily possible to do that. But if it is possible, that's ideal. Okay.
Let's see, the square of us pulls over for Shmainet and creates around the highway.
Wow, very nice. Right, so here we're talking about Tefillas Haderech, but yeah, very good. Okay, so the Mishnah Berura sentence of Katan Tezayin we saw yesterday, this is talking about even though you daven Shemona Esrei, there's still a mitzvah of Tefillas Haderech, and you say, Shetalichenu lishalom, haniftar mechavero loy al yomer loy lech bishalom. Someone who takes leave of a son, you don't say go 2 piece ela lech lishalom. Uchsheniftar min hameis yomer bishalom veloy lishalom. V'hatan ayin soif brachos ba'ayin Yaakov ha'kosev u'marsha. Basically, toward peace sounds like you still have what to go. Bishalom is you've made it already. So you've never made it until it's all over. Okay, v'tzarech, you need to say it b'lashon rabim. V'di'eved yatsa afilu amar kol nosach b'lashon yachid. B'di'eved, your yotzei, even if you hear the whole thing in lashon yachid. What if you're on a bus and they say Tefillas Haderech on the loudspeaker? The Minchas Yitzchak, Rabbi Shlomo Zalman says you can't be yotzei through the loudspeaker because the sound you hear on the loudspeaker is not the sound of the one making it. In other words, the science of it is that the sound waves are transformed into electrical impulses which are turned back into noise. So it's not the original voice of the mashmiya. Shlomo Zalman adds in the name of the Chazon Ish that it could be, it does work. Rav Moshe says that it's not clear that it's a problem. Therefore, midina ein limchos b'yad elu sheroitzim latzis dechaves kriyas hamegillah through a microphone. And he says even though it's mistaber that you are yotzei, you should not do it. Likewise, the Shevet Levi says that he's inclined to agree with the Igros Moshe, and but the thing is we don't innovate things. Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank says, no, you're yotzei. Okay, bottom line is it's better to not use the microphone. But let's say there are people in the back and they're not going to say Tefillas Haderech, and the only way they're going to hear you is with the microphone, so then you should use it. According to Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank, you're yotzei l'chadchila. According to Rav Moshe, you're yotzei meikar hadin. Fine. La'amra.
Say it themselves, if someone is being moist with others, should they say it along? Someone is saying it for a group. Should each individual try to say it along?
I don't know. I don't think so because B'roi Vam Hadras Melech. It's like Kiddush.
It's better if someone likes it.
I think so.
Phone and Zoom have the same din?
Would a phone and Zoom have the same din? And a phone and a Zoom would be worse. There are other problems with a phone and Zoom. Some poskim say that there might be an issue that there's tsaya in between, the mashmiya and the shaymeya. So that should not really be relied on me'ikar hadin. In other words, let's say you have an old person, and you say, well, me'ikar hadin or Moshe says you use a microphone. Better not to do that for Havdalah. If you could get someone that's much better. Is it better than nothing? Maybe. But it's not the same as a microphone. Okay. Actually, in this week's Daf Hashavua, Iyun Sugya, they have the ramifications of being Yotzei mitzvahs, let me see, on a telephone. Let's see if they have it here. Oimek Hadav. I have to see, it's in my other booklet. Okay. Sif Katan Yotes La'amra Perush, you should say Kol HaNusach, the whole Nusach. Shal Tefillas Haderech, Shabatoich Kach Tefillasai Nishmas Yoser, that through it your tefillah will be heard more. Uveshem Sefer HaKaneh Kasvu, in the name of the Mekubalim they write the Milas Useneini Lechein Yomer B'Lashon Yachid. There is one word, we mentioned this yesterday, even though the whole Tefillas Haderech you say B'Lashon Rabim, but the word Useneini Lechein Ol Chesed you should say B'Lashon Yachid. Okay. Could you add things to Tefillas Haderech? Like you want to add protect from car accidents or from terrorists. Rosh Zalman said, surprisingly, you could. I don't understand that. Ruchaim Kanievsky said you can't add. It's already included in Kol Peranios. I'm not sure. I don't understand how you could add to it. Don't we say, you can't be Mishana Mimatbei Shetava by Chachamim. Especially in our dar, I don't know, I'm surprised at that. Okay. What about to say V'sach Zirenu L'Shalom? The Kaf HaChaim says, no, you don't say that. You know how it says in the Sidurim? Some say you should say V'sach Zirenu L'Shalom. By the way, whenever in the Siddur it says some say, what that means in halacha is don't say it. Anytime it says some say, it means don't you dare say it. If you want to do the right thing, don't say it. But if we want to sell the book, we have to write some say it. But the Kaf HaChaim says don't say V'sach Zirenu L'Shalom, even though in all the Nuschos of Tefillas Haderech it says if you're returning that day, you should say V'sach Zirenu L'Shalom. The Kaf HaChaim says no, that's what's there. Bring us L'mchois Chabtzeinu L'Shalom. Now, what if you start saying Tefillas Haderech, and then, as you started, you realize you have absolutely no idea what the nusach of Tefillas Haderech is? You thought you remembered from camp in 4th grade, Shilchenu Shalom, da-da-da-da, Shalom, da-da-da, and then you realize you don't even know one word of the Tefillas Haderech. So what do you do then? Reb Chaim Kanievsky says, you should mention Hatzlacha and Hatzalah, and you could even be chosim with the bracha. Now, what's the reason you should say Tefillas Haderech B'Lashon Rabim? What if you're traveling alone? I understand if I'm traveling on a big bus. What if I'm traveling alone? The Magen Avraham says because it's impossible that there's not another Jew traveling somewhere. It's interesting that in Tefillas Haderech there's no malchus. There's shame and there's no malchus. You ever realize that? You don't say Melech HaOlam. The Sha'ar Tzion brings in Siman Reish Lamed Sivkatan Tes because it's only a tefillah ubakasha. Okay, not like I said before. I have to retract. Being yotzei Tefillas Haderech from someone else. The Eish Avram says you could do it. Why couldn't you do it? It's bakashas rachamim. It's not birchas hashevach. it's bakashas rachamim. You see, we don't say melech. It has a din of like shemana esrei. And shemana esrei, you should not be yotze with someone else. If you're a baki, you can't be yotze with someone else. Reb Vosner and Reb Chaim Kanievsky says you should do it yourself. Now, why should you say? That's very interesting. I would have thought you should say you should be yotze tefillas haderech als b'roiv am. No, it has a din of bakashas rachamim. The Eishel Avram does not say it's better to do it. I wonder, according to the Eishel Avram, that you could be yotze through others. Is it better to be yotze through others? Meaning, once you could, then l'chayro you should because of b'roiv am. Or is it just a b'di'eved that even though it's bakashas rachamim, you could still be yotze with somebody else? Not sure.
What do they do on the tours, on the Rabbi Glatstein tours? How do they do it?
On the official Machon Maggid Harakiah tours, the official stance of Machon Maggid Harakiah is usually a lady reminds us to say Tefillas Haderech, and usually it's about 30 seconds into a 3-minute trip. You know? So the trip has to be a minimum duration, but what do we do? I think we're yotze. Without a microphone, I think we're yotze. I didn't realize this factor, that it's bakashas rachamim, and therefore, by the way, the Reb Vosner is in the Kovetz Or Yisrael, so it's not in the Shas Tshuva Shevet Alevi. The Dersha brings it from a journal. And the Reb Chaim Kanievsky is in a footnote in the Ishe Yisrael. So apparently this doesn't seem like it's such a legislated inyan. That's very interesting. Now, why do we say V'sitneni in Lashon Yachid al pi Kabbalah? The Magen Avram says it's al pi Kabbalah. Fine. B'Lashon Rabim. V'davka b'tfilah kavua l'Rabim. The din that you should say tefillah b'lashon rabim is only a tefillah kavul rabim. But when a person needs to make a bakasha for himself, Hashem, please help me find a parking spot. You don't have to say, Hashem, please help Am Yisrael find parking spots, because then you're not going to find one. No, that's not the reason why you shouldn't say that. It's because ein tzarich l'sal b'lashon rabim, and another halacha. V'yasik b'atar b'derech. You should learn on the road. Someone who goes on the road, and he distracts his mind, he's liable for his soul. But do not learn halacha be'iyon dilma asi la'atrude. It's going to come to distract you. It's going to come to preoccupy you. Now, presumably, this din that you can't learn halacha be'iyon is talking about when you're the driver, you're driving or you're the pilot, you know. But if you're sitting on the third row, you know, I don't see why there would be an issue if you learned be'iyon. Because Magen Avram, the efsher to be Yoshe ba'agol v'shachar manek hasusim shari afilu iyon. The Magen Avram says it could be if you're riding on the back seat, iyon is okay. Why only efsher? It still seems like maybe, one second, because I'm going to tell you Maisa Shahaya. Maisa Shahaya is, even if you're not the pilot, and even Uvadidi have a uvda many times. So, what? So you don't want to be too preoccupied. You got to have your a certain level of awareness when you travel. So the Magen Avram says it could be you're allowed to learn Iyon if you're not driving, but it could be not. Anyway, Oid mashma b'Gemara. The mahalich b'derech tzarich lahariv atzmei ma'at. The Gemara's mashma that when you travel on the road, you should be a little bit hungry. Don't eat to full capacity. Ki hasvia kasha azmayayin. Being filled is difficult for the intestines when they tar Haderech because of the travel. Again, does that apply nowadays? I guess it depends on a person's own makeup. The Gemara there in Tainus, I believe, says that Rav Papa did eat a big meal. And the Gemara says, how could Rav Papa eat a big meal? The Gemara says Rav Papa was a Baal Basar, he could handle it. So a person has to know themselves. If their stomach becomes uneasy on the road, that's a time to take it easy on the intake. Okay, V'yizar kol adam she'lo pas. A person should be careful always to have bread. Afilu hoylech b'makam karayv. Even when you are going to a close by location, uvemakam d'shchiach pas, and you're traveling from New York to Lakewood, and you could get bread anywhere. You should always have bread with you. Ki kampam sheikra mikros. You never know what could happen. Rachmana litzlan badarach. So it's always good to have bread with you. V'nachain l'chol yirei shamayim be'es yitziyasei laderach sheyikach imay hatalas utvon shalai. It is correct for every God-fearing person when they travel to take their talis and tefillin, afilu hu noisea l'makam karayv. Even if you're traveling close by, v'daite lachzar hayom, and you plan on returning that day. Says Reb Chaim Kanievsky, even bizmanenu, where car travel is pretty quick, it's still worthwhile to take your talis and tefillin with you, and that's what he did, unless you're still within the city. So if, let's say, you're traveling from Brooklyn to Lakewood, or 5 towns to Lakewood, it's nachain l'chol yirei shamayim to take. Now, you don't have to do it. There are a lot of things that are nachain lasais. First, I would focus on doing the things you have to do. First, make sure you come on time to davening. Make sure you leave your phone outside. Then you can worry about taking your talis and tefillin with you in the car. If you keep all the halachas in the Mechaber Ramah and the Mishnah Berura, then you can worry about the nachain lasais. By the way, yeah, okay. Why? What are we worried about? Pen yikra iza mikra v'yizbal mitzvah. You never know. You might have to stay over the night, or you might get stuck, and you won't have talis and tefillin. In our many sins, there are many travelers. They don't travel with their tefillin. They rely on borrowing. Their sin is great. Because many times, if they're going to have to borrow, they're not going to get around to putting it on until after Siman when they wait until talis and tefillin come their way. They end up just taking random tefillin. They're not makbid if it fits. And they're not makbid if the kesher shel roish is in accordance with their size or not. Okay, so look, if you're traveling on a plane and you're coming back the same day, of course you need to take your talis and tefillin with you. If you're traveling to a couple of hours away, you're going on a chalamoid trip to Great Adventures, do you have to take your talis and tefillin with you? Pal, you have bigger problems if you decided to go to Great Adventures than not having your talis and tefillin on you.
Wait a minute.
What? No, I stand behind that statement. Why would you want to inflict brain injury on your entire family, waiting on lines for hours and hours? So, you could take your talis and tefillin. Maybe you should take your talis and tefillin with you. Okay, anyway. Siv Katan Chaf Aleph. V'im Efsher. If it's possible, what does that mean? If possible means you should stop traveling to say Tefillas Haderech. How? The caravan is waiting. Then Yamod Milelech. Achim Ikuv Amidasa Yachridai. If your delay will distract you, it will get you lost. It's going to ruin the trip. You're on the Garden State Park, you're by the outer bridge, you're on a bridge. Now you're going to put on your hazard lights and you can't do it really. But if anyway, you're going to come to a rest stop. You're coming to a rest stop in the next couple minutes. So then you might as well say Tefillas Haderech when you're stopped. Okay, let's hold it over here, Rabbi Isai. Have a great day. Kol tov.
Don't you say it says when you say Tefillas Haderech to make the bracha first on some food or so Yakshem and Malchus that way?
Very good. We're going to see that in Sivav, the practice of the Marami Rothenberg. Okay?
And another question about the Sachsirei L'Shulam. Let's say you're traveling to the mountains and you're coming back. So then you have to you have to say it twice?
No, you only say it once. And the Kaf HaChaim says the Sachsirenu L'Shalom is already included in Limchayz Chavtzeinu, the desired destination. Your return trip is your desired destination. I don't know, I don't want to say the minhag is to say the Sachsirenu L'Shalom, but I think most people do say it based on the fact that it's crept into the Siddur pretty prominently. But the Kaf HaChaim says it's not necessary to say that. Yeah?
According